Greetings. You're listening to Rebels Remembered, featuring Caitlin DeFord and Kelsey DeFord.
Greetings, travelers from across the galaxy. I am Kelsey.
I am Caitlin.
And this is Rebels Remembered. And today we're looking at Season 2, Episode 8, Stealth Strike. And also, time of recording this, 10 years since Rebels has premiered, which...
Crazy.
Sounds really crazy. But, yeah. It's excited to, see all of the love that it's getting on social media.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Really nice. So anyway, Stealth Strike originally aired on November 25th, 2015. And to keep in mind with some of the context that was happening at the time, I believe this is before Force Awakens comes out.
Yes, like a month.
So a month before that comes out. So the synopsis for this episode is: a new Imperial ship captures Ezra, Commander Sato, and his crew, forcing Kanan and Rex to go undercover as stormtroopers to free the rebels. This is written by Matt Mishovitz and directed by Brad Rao. And we start to see some of the things that we've talked about a couple of episodes where Kanan and Rex are still fighting each other since they met. You know, how many episodes ago? I don't know what the time period is between when they first meet him to now. But.
Right. So trivia on this episode, we get another Imperial kind of guy named Brom Titus. I found it interesting. His look is influenced by many of the extras hired in the 70s to fill in background scenes of Imperial officers.
Huh.
So if you look at him, the way his hair is, it literally is like 1970s. Oh. They were kind of same style. Kind of like Callus with the...
What are the mutton chops?
Yeah, mutton chops type of thing, yeah. I thought it was interesting. Also, there's a cute little cartoon illustration of Rex and Kanan, and it was actually illustrated by an artist called Chris Glenn. I just love the illustration. I want it as a sticker or something because it's just so cute. The interdictor bridge, I'm probably gonna for our YouTube, I'm gonna put a picture of what I'm talking about to actually get context. It is built from the Star Destroyer set, but they replaced it with circular stations inside the crew pits.
Oh,
so if you look at a bridge of the Star Destroyer of a regular Star Destroyer, it's the same set. They just changed to make it look like more of an interdictor, make it a difference. But it's still, if you look at it, it's similar to a regular Star Destroyer. They just put people with controls instead of...
Okay. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, that's really the first time I've seen that area have any sort of crew pits.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, but I don't know.
So this episode starts with Ezra is with Commander Sato, and they're on their way to the Del Zenith system because one of their patrols has gone missing. I remember watching this going, why is Ezra the only one there? You figure out later why he's kind of chilling with Sato.
Well, I think also Sato says that Hera recommended him for this mission as well.
Yeah.
And of course it was his choice to take the mission, and we figure out that later. But
so it's established early on in the beginning that Ezra has volunteered for this mission, and they're kind of trying to figure out what happened, and he senses something. I guess a disturbance.
Disturbance in force,
And then right after that, their vessel is pulled out of hyperspace. Which I remember watching this going, what is happening? What?
Yeah, because up to this point, we've seen them putting trackers on ships when they go out in hyperspace, and then they follow them to wherever they jump to.
Right.
But this is the first time I think we've ever seen a ship actually get pulled out of... Which is crazy because of how dangerous hyperspace is in general. How did that not just rip them apart? Essentially, is sort of what I was thinking, but...
So they're pulled out of hyperspace, and it's this huge Imperial vessel, and it's so creepy the way this is established, because it's just it's not a little vessel, but their vessel, and then there's always a juxtaposition between Imperial ships, I feel like, in Star Wars. I mean, you see it in A New Hope, you see it in Rebels throughout, just trying to establish that power struggle and dominance. He tries to send out a distress call, but it is cut short after they suddenly lose power. So now their power has gone down. And I feel like I said, season 2 has so many of those moments where you're like, what's going to happen?
Because, I guess we're so used to season 1 where they just get away and everything's fine. And then you get to season 2, you're like, oh, got some actual challenges going on here with, you don't always win. And there's a sense of, like you said, foreboding.
Yeah.
Yeah. His distress call does get through to the Ghost crew, and then it's long enough to inform them that they've been pulled out of hyperspace. And of course, the Rebel crew is like, oh, this is strange. We've never
encountered this before. Yeah.
And of course, we have Sabine using her knowledge that she has from the Academy, because again, it was established early on that she was an Imperial cadet at one point and escaped, as we got from the last episode with Ketsu. So she knows that they, at the time, were working on a gravity weld, which is able to pull ships out of hyperspace. And then, we don't know how long that lag of time is between the time she escapes and the time she joins the crew now. But, Kanan is just like, well, it looks like they fixed it, or finished it. So then they're actually using it.
And I think she mentions if they're testing it, they have a kind of a lock where their distress call cut out. So I think she said something like, if they're testing it, it's not going to be a wide area. So they're probably which to me that would be common sense. Wherever the distress call went out, that's probably where they're located. Where the ship is located.
But also, if you're testing that, and I don't know if they wanted it to be a secret that they're testing this technology, because then I'm like, how did Sabine find out that they were testing it? But they're in a remote kind of area as well.
But then we're gonna get to it later. It's revealed that the Imperials, that was their plan. They captured a rebel ship thinking they're going to come after them.
Yeah, and I think that's
they just weren't expecting it to be Sato.
Yeah, I think even, is it Callus that's there, or is it Titus?
Titus
is like, oh, we got the big fish. Like, we weren't expecting to catch you. We were expecting one rebel or some rebels to follow that patrol. And I'm trying to figure out, I got a little bit confused, is what happened to the ship that they were looking for?
That's true. I never thought about that.
Did they have it? Did they kill the person? Oh, the patrol?
That was left hanging, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like, any second I was watching the episode, I was like, okay, they're going to run into a cell or of some sort where that transport, the people that were in that transport were being held. What happened to them? Like, we never...
Yeah. I never thought about that.
I don't know.
So Kanan orders everyone to gear up, and he plans to lead a rescue mission, but Hera overrules his orders and tells him he just needs to go with Rex, which he is not happy about. He's like, no, I'll just go with Sabine or Zeb or...
Yeah, and I think this is like, for Kanan's part, it's like, I know that we love the Ghost crew, and, it's sort of like when you're at work, you have your favorite coworker.
Right.
You're like, oh, I gotta work with this other person. I don't want to. We don't really gel. And he's like, sometimes you have to work with people that you may not necessarily like, or you just don't gel with. And I think for him, it's just because he was a clone, and there's all that baggage, and I don't want to be around him alone. And maybe it's also Hera, like, kind of justifies it and says, well, he's got all this knowledge. I'm like, Hera... I believe that, but I also believe you're trying to mend a bridge or build a bridge between the two as well.
I think so too. Despite his grudge against clones, he goes ahead with Hera's plan because she mentions, I sent Ezra. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, you need to go with Rex. Like, it's the only... I think she says it's the only way. Meanwhile... Ezra and Sato are apprehended. They're brought to the bridge where they meet Brom Titus. Sato does this thing where he tries to convince them that they're members of the corporate alliance. Like, you gotta let us go. You have no right to detain us or whatever. But
what is the corporate alliance? What is that?
I feel like it has something to do with
the
Republic. If it's still there. It's not really there anymore. It's the Empire. But he recognizes Sato. Yeah. And I love how he's like, and who are you? And Ezra's like, Jabba the Hutt.
And we get the Jabba reference again.
And you think, because it's worked before, because they're dumb, but he sees through that too. He knows who he is. He knows he's Ezra Bridger.
Yeah, and then he says, like, I think Callus mentions you going about using that name and you're actually Ezra Bridger. The other interesting thing that he says is, you're a little bit small to be a Hutt. which shows he does have some knowledge of, I guess, the species that the Jabba we know is. But yeah, we think that's gonna work, and it doesn't. But it's nice to get the little joke back in there.
Titus knows that Callus will be pleased to hear that he has Ezra, and then orders his men to secure them. There's this part where he tells the relationship between Ezra and Sato is interesting in this episode because he keeps questioning Ezra's abilities because to him it's just this kid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there's moments in this episode where he's like, "Oh, it's okay. I've been captured a lot." Oh, that's the line. I've been captured a lot, and Sato says, "That's not very promising."
And then Ezra replies, "Well, I've escaped a lot too."
Yeah.
He kind of has to keep justifying his abilities because again, to Sato, it's just this kid.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning, even when Ezra's kind of complaining a little bit.
That's the part, yeah.
At the very beginning, he's like, Hera said you're going to be helpful. This is not helpful.
I don't see how you're helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He finds out, though, in this episode. How he can be helpful. Back on Gorel, Zeb captures 2 stormtroopers, and Kanan and Rex put on their armor. This line, where Kanan says, "Looks kind of tight on you, old man." And he's like kind of squirming in it, like he's got a wedgie or something. And if you watch this entire episode, Rex squirms in it if you pay attention. There's parts I've noticed where they're walking, and he's kind of like, you could tell he's uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like even he mentions like this is not like clone armor. No, I don't want to be that person and say, okay, what's the difference between clone armor and stormtrooper armor? I'm sure some nerd out there has done a whole analysis or something, but also we have to recognize that it's made fun of the entire episode, and so, like at least 2 other instances is Rex is not the same weight he was when he was in the Clone Wars.
Right.
He's got some pudge on him. So, yeah, that could also be why it just doesn't fit him. Mm-hmm. Is also might be the issue as well. I also like in that when they decide to go undercover, they also get a Imperial shuttle to use. They can't use the Ghost because it's an undercover mission. And then Kanan's line is, "I don't see how the Empire, or how does the Empire let us keep stealing these things?" So even they're acknowledging there's some level of incompetence here that...
But then what I love is Rex's response. "Oh, I thought it was the same one we used last time."
Yeah.
They also take Chopper, and he disguises him as an Imperial courier droid. And then it cuts to, that part of them sitting in the shuttle, and right between them is the little... cute little illustration.
Yeah.
And Kanan's like looking back at it, he's like, I don't know why she does that.
Yeah.
And he's like happy and smiling, and he's like, I can't remember what he tells Rex, but he's like, "But what my expression is wrong. I'm not happy about this mission."
Yeah, and very vocal about it as well. Also, we get this whole episode is sort of a callback to A New Hope.
Yes.
So it's, Luke instead of Luke and Han being disguised as stormtroopers, now it's Rex and Kanan being disguised as stormtroopers, and it is a rescue mission.
Also, in New Hope, it was Obi-Wan had to dismantle the tractor beam.
That's true, yeah.
In this one, it's Ezra and Chopper having to stop
the gravity weld. Yeah.
So similar type of thing. Mm-hmm. Traveling through hyperspace, Kanan's plan is to find their people and get them out. So his main goal throughout this episode is just to get Ezra and Sato and their crew and get them out of there.
Yep.
But Rex is like, well, we really need to destroy that ship because it's going to be a problem later on if we don't. And it become a potential threat to the rebellion. But Kanan's like, no, that's not our main goal. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's kind of conflicting because... Again, Kanan's not thinking about the rebellion still. Mm-hmm. He's still thinking about his crew and those people. Rex is kind of still... He's with the rebellion, so he's thinking... He's thinking long term. Yes. Yeah.
But I think that's also the leftover from the soldier in him. Just think that strategically, mm-hmm. rather than just, okay, what's the bigger picture than just this rescue mission?
Yeah. So they arrive at the little ship or whatever, and Rex manages to convince them to granting permission to board by using protocols that, interestingly enough, I didn't catch this, him and Cody invented back in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so Commander Cody gets a shout out here. And the fact that they even invented some kind of protocols as well. Which a lot of, again, going back to Republic, and I don't want to get into the military in any sort of form is so much different than anything, really.
Yeah.
It's very numerical. It's very I'm trying to think of the word for it.
Logical and logistical.
Logistical, rather than emotional.
Yeah.
And which bothers Kanan, you know. It's like, this is why, you know, I don't like this kind of stuff.
I think I wrote my notes. I put so many numbers, lol.
I know, I would keep track. It's like, we have a blah, 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 and a blah, and this too, and blah. And I'm like, man, I can't keep up with all this. Like, then I'm like, dude, you had to memorize all these codes and all this kinds of stuff. Yeah.
So Hera was right. This was going to be helpful. Like, his military experience is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Also, the fact they use the exact same codes that they used 20 years ago is a little bit disarming, but...
Sad. And the difference in their personalities, I don't know if you call this in an animation, Kanan's very stiff, and, like, he's not, like, anxious or nervous, but he's very, you know, like this. And Rex is like, oh, they don't expect a thing. Puts his arms back.
Yeah.
He's, like, so much more chill in this moment.
Yeah, and I think I talk about this, like, with, you know, people that I'm close with, is, like, you can have two people where one is very by the book, kind of, like, not uptight, but just maybe a little bit more anxious, type A personality, and then you have the other person that's not like that. But I think having those two together, like, would cause problems, but I think it also balances each other out.
After landing, Kanan, Rex, and Chopper depart from the shuttle and begin their search for the rebels. But before this, Brahm contacts Callus. He's like, put a triple guard on Ezra Bridger. He's like, what are you talking about? This is a kid. And he says, I warn you, do not underestimate him.
And see, why didn't Callus come out and say, this kid is a Padawan?
Yeah.
I mean, rather than just, don't underestimate him.
It's possible Brahm knows that.
Okay. But I mean, also, maybe Brahm would be like, what are you talking about? They're dead. You know, it could be like that, too. But, yeah. Also, I just love Callus's interactions with Brahm throughout this, because even when Ezra, like, I'm jumping ahead, but even when Ezra escapes, like, you have some trouble? Like...
So, Kanan, Rex, and Chopper, they're, you know, in disguise or whatever. They access the terminal and realize that Ezra is being transferred to a secure cell. So we cut to Ezra, and he's being escorted by 3 stormtroopers. And, you know, he's in cuffs or whatever. And he's like, I think he says, like, just so you know, once I escape, I won't hurt you.
And they're like, yeah, that's great, kid, whatever. We're just gonna walk you to your cell. Like, they don't even, see him as a threat.
And then he ignites his lightsaber, and it's attached to the trooper's belt, and he's kind of like, what? And it's just kind of poking a hole in, like, the floor and everything. And of course, Ezra is able to get out of the cuffs and, you know, do some really awesome lightsaber moves.
Yeah, that sort of builds on, I think, Brothers of the Broken Horn. We see more of that lightsaber combat.
Mm-hmm. Then he looks and sees these 2 troopers running towards him, thinking they're more troopers, and takes the stun gun from his lightsaber and shoots. But then he sees Chopper. He's like, wait a second. And he runs over and he takes their helmets off, and he sees that it's actually Kanan and Rex. And to me, this was the highlight of this episode. I love this moment so much. Is he's like, it was a firefight, and you guys fought
great.
Yeah. And I think Kanan's like, well, all I saw was you. And then it's like Chopper pulls up.
Chopper is a snitch. Yeah, Chopper is a snitch in that moment, where he just literally shows a hollow projection of actually what happened, and repeats it on replay, which is like over and over, which is really funny.
Like a GIF.
Mm-hmm. And then I love Rex's reaction. Like, he's like, oh, you shot us. He just laughs at it. Like, that's so funny. And then he's like, well, you should have used kill. Which is the case, you know, it wasn't us.
And then that kind of leads to some bickering between Kanan and Rex. And, of course, Ezra breaks it up, and he's like, we have to find Sato and sabotage the ship. There's this gravity well thing that pause. You know all this. Like, why would you be here? I'm pretty sure you know now. So the plan is for Ezra and Chopper to sabotage it, like I said earlier, and then Kanan and Rex to go get Sato out.
But we also have this confirmation from Ezra that this is the whole reason he took this mission. Was to get away from them fighting. And, you know, good on Ezra for, like, kind of, like, showing some, not only confidence, but just going to the bottom line. Okay, this isn't getting us anywhere. This is pointless. You all fighting. We're wasting time. I'll go sabotage shit with Chopper. You guys get Sato. And then he just runs off. Mm-hmm. And then Kanan's line is, he takes after Hera sometimes. Which is really sweet, you know.
Titus receives word that Ezra's escaped, so he gives the order to lock down all levels and have the hangar base secured. So the ship's on lockdown now. There's troopers after him. Chopper and Ezra reached the reactor core for the gravity weld, and then I think we've already established that early on that Ezra and Chopper can understand each other. Mm-hmm. And Chopper tells him, I have a plan, you know. And there's like, what do you mean you have a plan? Okay, well, he said, okay, I'm the bait. Okay. He said, well, that should work because you're a droid and people ignore them anyway.
Yeah, that's really sad. Again, we talked about this, like, droids get treated as second-class citizens so much, and it annoys me.
Oh, Ezra sneaks into the room, but he's then spotted by the technicians. He makes a run for it as technicians open fire on him. While distracting them, Chopper enters and goes to one of the terminals, but he turned off the gravity. Like, Chopper, how is that helpful? I still don't know why he did that. Other than to give a cool scene of fighting through gravity.
Yeah, probably that's what it was.
Which is cool. And then he restores it, which actually, I guess that makes sense. He was waiting for the other troopers to kind of float off with no bridge underneath them. So he could turn
so what happened to them?
They died. And then there's this part where Ezra is like, don't, not yet. And he just turns it off, and then he kind of grabs onto
the ledge. There's always a ledge.
The ledge there. And,
runs over his fingers.
Runs over his hand. Like, I love Chopper, but he is such a cat. Like, I will never forget that analogy that he is a cat. Mm-hmm. Which is true. So we cut back to Kanan and Rex, and they reach Sato and the other people in there. And he's like, wait, we have to get Ezra. And then Kanan's like, oh, he's fine.
Sato is very, like, he escaped? Like, he's kind of, like, shocked by that revelation.
And then there's this part where, they're trying to shoot the troopers, and they can't, like, Rex is missing or something, and he's like, you really do shoot like a stormtrooper. Like, their banter, like,
calls back to all the stormtroopers in Star Wars. They're not known for shooting very well, you know. But then, you know, I mean, when Rex throws the helmet, he's like, I can't see in this helmet. I'm like, it begs the question, is that why they can't shoot well?
Important question, they can't see. So they're headed back to Sato's ship, but more stormtroopers show up. And Rex has this moment where, I don't know if it's because, I don't know if you missed this, where he's like, he's kind of out of breath. Because he is, let's be honest, he's older.
Yeah.
And he has this moment where he's like, I can't run anymore. I don't know if you caught that, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I caught that.
So he decides to buy the others time and hold them off while they escape. So I don't know if that was just kind of like an innate militant response, or if that was just, I'm exhausted and I can't go
Well,
any further.
not only was it he exhausted, it's like, I'm slowing them down.
Yeah.
If I keep following them, then they're waiting on me, they're not going to get out safely. So I need to do the honorable thing and give up me so they can get away. Which, even, you know, Kanan is sort of taken back by that, and his response is, stop trying to impress me. Mm-hmm. And Rex is like, I'm not trying to impress you. Like, this is serious. Like, go. And then I think for Kanan, it's, again, twice now that this dude's... Twice. Has, you know, put himself, in harm's way, specifically to help them. Mm-hmm. Which, for Kanan, I think that's also a very... I'm not saying Rex is a Jedi, but that's a very Jedi thing to do.
Yeah.
Which I think, you know, touches something in Kanan that he, like, maybe this guy's not so bad, you know, for a clone.
For a clone, yeah.
But yeah, their banter back and forth. I also like the part where he says, this is getting us nowhere, when they're stranded between this is after he throws his helmet. He's like, I'll just pull and you fire.
Rex is brought to Titus, and he's, like, disappointed about his alliance with the Rebellion. And as he recalls the days when his kind brought peace to the galaxy, and he offers Rex a chance to basically, you can wear that armor proudly again. Almost trying to convince, like, you can just, like, join us. We have cookies.
Yeah,
type of thing.
But even, Rex is like, my loyalty was to the Republic, not your empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I think Rex says something like, he said, so you can be proud of your service. And he said, I'm proud of my service, but I really hate this armor.
Yeah.
Which is a great line. So he refuses, and then Titus brings up I guess it's an interrogator droid that's going to kill him. And then there's this moment, it's really unnerving, where you hear, like, his cries for, like agony, I guess.
Yeah.
And Kanan turns around, and it's kind of like a moment of...
And I wonder, did he sense that through the Force? Was that something
he
was
did.
Sensing? Okay.
He was sensing that through the Force, I think. And it was kind of like, oh, dang it. Why do I gotta be a Jedi in this moment? I have to go, go help. And I think one thing I noticed was interesting. He says, Bridger's like, where are you going? He's like, I gotta go save my friend. It's like, oh, he said friend. Oh, progress.
Yeah. Which even Ezra's taken it back, like, friend? What?
What happened? This is Sabine and
Ketsu, like, how long was I gone?
So he's about to kill Rex, and Kanan jumps in there, and he's like, which this part I actually had to rewind. Like, when did Kanan? It's really small, but you just see the stormtrooper kind of walk into shot, and it's Kanan.
Yeah, I was like, when did he get there?
He saves him, and the Admiral just runs off.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm done.
Yeah, once he sees that lightsaber, he's like, oh, I'm gonna get out of Dodge now.
So he's got Rex, and they're running, and he tells Ezra and Sato that to go ahead and go, and they've got another way out, which is escape pods, which are so helpful in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very
glad
helpful.
ships have them. So Sato and his crew depart, and then Rex and Kanan join them, with the escape pods or whatever, and they're getting ready to hyperspace jump to get the heck out of Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yes, Chopper he sabotaged it, so it's good, we can leave. Like, that's what Ezra says. And I remember watching this with Dad. It's like, okay, they're gonna go. And it takes off, and they're just pulled back. And I remember watching that with our dad in the living room, and Dad going, nope.
And then I was like, Chopper, what? You said you did it. You said you shut off the thing. Why is it still working?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Ezra has that same reaction, and then he's like, what do you mean, wait for it?
So he overloaded the weapon, and it's pulling everything in.
Even their ships.
Even their ship, though. What, Chopper, what are you doing? So it collides with the Admiral's ship and just destroys it, including the gravity well. So it's gone.
Which, I mean, I think that's a victory for them in general, is just to get rid of that one ship. But the thing that if I could nitpick, and I don't mean to nitpick, but, like, about Rebels is, like, it seems like, oh, yeah, there's not going to be any more gravity welds.
There is one.
Is there?
I want to say there's one in season 3.
Okay, because I'm like, they still have the plans. They can still process these things and make these things. It's not just, I mean, it can be a victory because, okay, that one's out of the way. Our ships won't get pulled in by that one because it's gone. Mm-hmm. But I think big picture, like, they're still going to be able to manufacture those gravity welds.
So they're free to escape, and Sato expresses gratitude for Kanan, Rex, and Ezra for saving him. And then, of course, Rex, it's kind of like when you have two dudes, and they don't want to be, like, too lovey-dovey.
Too emotional.
Not lovey-dovey, but, like, emotional about it. It's like, hey, thanks for, well, And then Kanan's like, yeah, okay. We're not gonna hug, but...
just some acknowledging of some respect and just thanks for saving each other,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think the moment that solidifies the growth between these two is when he says, hey, Rex, and they salute at the end.
Yeah, we have another episode that ends on a salute, but I think the fact that it's a former Padawan and a clone saluting each other, like, that's huge progress.
Yeah.
From, because you have to remember, Order 66 and all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge progress, like, for, I think, both of them.
I think this
particularly
moment...
Kanan, though.
Yeah, I think Kanan recognizes he's finally started to see that this man is just a veteran. Let's be honest, he's a veteran of the Republic. He's not, and while he was a clone, he's proven himself to Kanan that he's a person.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you rate this episode?
I rated it a 7 out of 10.
I rated it 6 for some reason, but I think I want to bump it up to a 7.
You don't have to. Think for yourself.
I just wrote pacing was a little bit off for me because there were moments where it was kind of slow. And...
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I just really liked the lightsaber combat, particularly from Ezra in the hallway.
That was what I was going to bring up when he's like, I've got this. And Sato was like, what are you talking? Because he still is like, what? And he takes him out and like does a jump and a flip and takes one of them out. And then he's like, go on, he's got this.
Yeah, I really like that part, and just seeing him being more capable with a lightsaber. Like, even there's a little animation of him running down the hallway when he's asking where Kanan and Rex are in the communicator, and he goes, Roger that. He ignites the lightsaber, and then he does this, let's say, Naruto run, which is kind of what I consider, and then he flips that blade in his hand. Mm-hmm. Like, just something that I thought was really cool, and like, so is that you are growing, like, as a Padawan and into a Jedi. Like, you just see a lot of growth with his lightsaber combat, specifically, in this season.
My favorite moment was also, like, the one in, like, the hallway with Ezra, but also Kanan and Rex's banter throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, the entire thing, yeah.
Especially the scene in the elevator. I know we didn't talk about that, but when they're trying to find, I think it's when they're going to find Ezra, and he's like, you're, an Imperial officer walks in, and he's like, your armor's looking a bit tight, trooper. Which to me is almost like a fat joke.
It is a fat joke. It is a fat joke.
And Rex is standing there, and I love Rex because I feel like...
While he's a soldier, he will back talk, you know.
Yeah, he's like, just mumbling. And Kanan's like, oh, he's got hyper sickness, and I'm going to take him to a 2437, whatever number he says. And he's like, the commissary? It's the last place I'd take him. And then as he's walking out, you still have Rex like muttering.
That scene was really, really funny. I have a question for you, specifically because you're wearing the Kanan shirt.
I am wearing the Kanan shirt.
What did you think about this episode? Do you think it tied up the relationship between Kanan and Rex and the clone specifically, or do you think it should have continued more of the bantering? And
it's interesting you say that because I was recently watching some old clips of like Freddie talking about Kanan's character, and he said one of the most challenging but rewarding things about the character was he is always going to have that trauma.
Okay.
With the clones and what happened to his master, and it's always going to be there, so it's always going to be a part of him and what he's gone through. But I think, you can't erase your trauma, but you can take the necessary steps to kind of recognize it and see it for what it was. But also you have to be careful and not blanket your worldview with things that have happened to you, and I think that's what was happening with Rex as a clone. So going off that, I do think to me it was a very definite conclusion when they saluted, because it was like his recognizing, like I said earlier, of him understanding that you're not the people that killed my master. You're not like, I mean, you are a clone, but you're different, if that makes sense. So I feel like for Kanan's character, this, to me, it did feel like the relationship is solidified, but that doesn't mean Kanan's not always going to have that.
Okay. So, yeah, that was my next question, is like, even though they salute at the end and they seem to be on track to becoming friends.
With Rex, he is.
With Rex. Yeah. I do think that they did a good job with not just erasing
right,
the
you
trauma.
can't. I mean, if they run into another clone,
that's gonna probably come up again.
I think he'll think about it a different way, but it's still gonna be there. You know, you can't just erase, which I think they did well with this. They didn't just erase like, great, we're buddies. I'm gonna forget everything that happened to me, and we're just gonna move on. Like, I still feel like that's just central to him and what he's gone through. So